Okay, I wanted to touch on the Black Panther since we need a more in-depth understanding of the symbolism relating to the Black Panther as far as the spiritual and esoteric side, not so much the movie itself, but just the overall symbolism, the overall meaning, and the overall message to the movie that is longer lasting than anybody that could have played in the movie itself. Because these concepts that we see in these movies all have ancient and so called mythological origins. But what we call mythological is more so sacerdotal because these things are through rites of passages and through um, evolution, evolutionary means. And the more evolved you become, the more you will be informed towards these practices, so to speak. Now, when it comes to the Black Panther himself, we have to see him not just as the Black Panther, but as a shapeshifter. And when we talk about shapeshifters, we have to understand astral and ancestral energies and totems. This is where totems come in because the ancestors appear to us sometimes after, soon after a relative dies or something. They may appear to us in the form of an insect or an animal. And these are symbolic messages that we need to tune into the medicine of in order to unfold, unfold and develop these instincts and evolutionary abilities. Now, every entity that exists has its own essence. In order to tap into that essence, we have to become a medium between the object and the spirit of creation itself. So, whether it's an animal, you tune into the medicine of that animal or the medicine of the plant by communing between you, that object, and the spirit of creation itself. So once you can tune into the spirit of creation, then you'll be able to tune into these entities and the essence itself to unfold the medicine that it has for you. Now, when it comes to the Black Panther in particular, these are uh, these are thought forms and archetypes that we have to recognize in the spiritual plane and not just the physical plane. Because the Black Panther itself is a shapeshifter slash trickster. And in the physical plane, we look at things as tricksters, but in the spiritual plane, we know them as shapeshifters. And there's a fundamental difference, but they kind of coincide when it comes to, unifying the spirit world and the material world. And the Black Panther himself is more like he's a trickster, but at the same time, this relates to its interaction in nature, how it would utilize the darkness to obscure itself and utilize the environment to gain a better tactical position over its enemy or over its prey or whatever the case is. Now, if you're unable to see in the dark and you're unable to blend in the dark, then we call you a trickster because you're able to utilize you're able to take advantage of the limitations of human instincts. Anytime a entity is able to take advantage of our limitations and is willing and able to expose certain certain weaknesses, so to speak, or certain vulnerabilities, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it, then they kind of teach us that trickster aspect to kind of make us more well-rounded, so we don't become so easily deceived and thrown off. So in Africa, they had the lunar aspect that represents the spiritual and dream world, and then they had more of a solar aspect that represents the daytime, which was the lioness, which was Sekhmet. And then in Americas, they symbolized this trickster. They symbolized the shapeshifter with the jaguar. They used the jaguar as well as many other things like raccoons or chipmunks, if you will. But these are all tricksters within nature. Some of them are benign, some of them are friendly. They just exploit and take advantage of some of our instinctive weaknesses and habits. So when you become a creature of habit and a creature of routine, it makes it easier for these tricksters to expose these things. And we look at it like it's a bad thing, but it just brings balance because you can't be tricked um, if you're not caught up in your own cycles, if you're not caught up in your own distractions. And they are great at exposing our distractions. So in Americas, they use the jaguar, which is yellow and black, which represents night and day. And this cat or jaguar was was known as Tezcatlipoca in Mayan and Aztec tradition. And they would work with these totems to be able to commune with the spirit world and the dream world to retrieve healing energy or whatever the dominant force of nature that embodied that animal at the time. Because all of these animals represent a force of nature. When they're at their potential, when they're at their natural instincts, they all represent forces of nature. And these forces of nature are all imbued within us, which is what we call the hue in human, which is the electromagnetic energy. You have the hue and then you have the man, which is our intention, but the hue is our electromagnetism and energy bodies. So there, I wanted to say that this is going to be a little misunderstood, but all women are natural tricksters. And this isn't a bad thing. It just means that they know how to accentuate and embellish certain features in order to bring out and make things more distinctive. They'll use makeup, they'll make their hair longer, fingernails longer, they'll do a lot of things to change and shape shift their appearance to where they can really look like an entire different person oftentimes. But that's just natural instinct. That's like how seduction works. That's not necessarily bad. It's just appealing to human instincts in order to I want to say take advantage, but just to appeal to human instincts in order to seduce and somewhat manipulate those instincts. It's not a bad thing, but it can be bad if it's used in that way. So, just like a chain link fence, right? When you observe a chain link fence, you are easily tricked by the optical illusion of trying to peer at the chain link fence, but your brain is also seeing through it at the same time. And that's a trickster component that women work with when they wear fishnets, right? Those fishnets are also there to induce altered states of consciousness. And when your mind is at an altered state, you become more susceptible to energetic seduction, is the word I'm going to use. And that can go either way, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing, you see. But these attributes that we all have naturally, it's important for us to learn to use them too. Use them to our advantage because they're here for a reason. And it's a lot of attributes and aspects that we can learn from women, and women can learn from men. And we are to learn from the trickster. Women are here to teach us to not be easily manipulated, not to be easily tempted by just objective and just objective values, just the physical aspect that really, once you get to the core and the meat of things, sometimes looks can be deceiving, right? But women are those creatures that can go either way. They can have a deceptive look, but it's not just women, but people in general. But I'm just using women as an example because they are of that natural trickster energy, because they're naturally mutable and moldable and adaptable, and they can kind of shapeshift their appearance and kind of match the event, match the environment, and there's nothing wrong with that. But these elements needs to be understood so we can interact with these entities or with the essence of that entity in order to make it a part of ourselves, because otherwise we'll easily become tricked every time, and we're going to continue to look at these things as it's the devil. But it's a matter of balance. We have to understand it for what it is and then evolve with it instead of trying to go against it. You know what I mean? So that's one of the first points I just kind of wanted to touch on, and I'll elaborate more as more ideas come to me. But right now, that's kind of what what comes up on the surface. So that's all for now.